The long-awaited Flesh and Blood 2.0 was recently announced, introducing a copious amount of changes to the box model, new game modes, and upcoming products. Along with all of this was the name of the next set, Uprising. Speculation began to brew in the community on where the next set would take place, as shortly after, a Dorinthia and Bolton lore article was released. At the end of the article, we see an image of Bolton and Dorinthia standing in front of their friends, with Corsham to their left and the pits to the right. From this, the overall thought was the next expansion could be Metrics in the Pits, and Uprising could be a play on words as Metrics floats over the pits. That's until DM Armada stepped in. If you have not seen his video prediction on the next set, please go check that out first, as he breaks down his thoughts on where the next set will take place. I won't completely recap his video, but I will be comparing my research to his. Spoilers in 3, 2, 1. The next set will take place in Volcor. Once I saw this video, I was super stoked, as I recently kindled a love for playing Kano. After removing my thoughts of metrics in the pits from my thick skull, I began to think of the Talisman of Dowsing. For many of those who don't know, in Monarch, we were given one item, which was labeled Talisman of Dowsing, or as I know it, the Beetle Boy. As it's so colorful and stylized, it felt incredibly out of place to the rest of the set, which made it stand out like a sore thumb. Additionally, it was one of the short printed rainbow foil cards, making it harder to pull for collectors. This was done on purpose to bring attention to it. On its belly reads, "The kingdom awaits the treasure of the forest hidden within," which led fans to speculate two things. We are either going to the Savage Lands or Aria. Turns out half the audience was correct, as Tales of Aria was the next set. Anywho, this got me thinking back to items that were released in Everfest, which felt a bit out of place with the set. Originally, I tried to take all the letters of the items and make anagrams of each. After figuring out that was way too much work, I decided to instead just look at the art and see if anything stood out, which one did. The Talisman of Warfare. From first looks, we see a miniature sculpture of swords, merged together to resemble the Iron Throne from Game of Thrones. This strange sculpture really stood out to me, as it is like nothing that I've seen before. Eventually my eyes wandered down as I noticed this figure was placed on a map. As I began to notice Mysteria was written on the map, as well as the Kingdom of Solana at the top, I decided to open the map from the official website to see where the item was sitting on. And who would have guessed it? Volcor. From here, I was sold that Volcor had to be the location for the next set. After this, the only item that stuck out to me was Amulet of Ignition, as it was a piece of molten rock, but nothing was found from this. As I continued my journey, I started looking at the generics of the set, and found two that really stood out to me. The first being Pick a Card, Any Card. Seers and Fortune Tellers are two of the biggest parts outlined in the lore book for the Everfest Carnival, yet they seem to be almost non-existent in the Everfest set. That's where this card plays an important role, as it seems to be the only one that shows a fortune teller. Here, we see two cards flipped face up and two face down, with one pushed forward. Though the second figure is difficult to see, the first one clearly resembles Kano's adult art. If we're trying to fit the narrative, we could say the warrior wearing armor holding a sword up could be Bolton or Dory, as they are both shown in the article, but I do think it's a bit too far of a stretch to put that in place. The final two face down cards stand for the unknown, the future card set. But if we pay close attention to the card packs, the pyramid shape could resemble a large volcano erupting in Volcor. The final card I would like to look at is Fire Breathing. Close in comparison to cards like Exude Confidence, this unique effect lets us buff a card at instant speed. I don't know about you, but this gives me huge wizard energy, as both Kano and Iyslander deal all forms of buff damage at instant speed. Plus a big ol' fire card? Coincidence? I think not. So, with all that sweet information, I can say with 100% accuracy that the next set must be Huh? What's that? Oh. Update. As of April 21st, 2022, as I'm recording this, at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, an article was just released revealing the next set to be Volcor. Cool. And from here, I thought we found it all. We know that the next set is Volcor, but I feel like my journey is still incomplete. I began rechecking my work over and over again and kept coming up with blanks. Finally, I decided to bring in the big guns for a second look, Tiffany. Tiffany has a super good eye for detail, and not even a minute into breaking down my work and knowledge of everything, she noticed something that I did not. A giant backwards R on the map. I scratched my head for a second in confusion, as I was blind to see it, but after giving it the old flipperoni, it stuck out to me like a sore thumb, wedged between two other letters, I and A. The answer was in front of us the whole time, Ira. Being overly excited by the find, we searched tirelessly through the picture. We may have found the word realm in the blades flipped upside down in like a metal band font, but I don't think that has anything to do with the overall message, so we can kind of ignore that for now, but maybe if you can find something, let me know in the comments below. Anyway, then Tiff noticed that the art looked super familiar to the Monarch Talisman of Dowsing that I was talking about earlier. Remember little beetle boy, as I like to call it? After looking at the original artist of the beetle, we saw it was Dmitry Iskovich, who was also the artist of Talisman of Warfare and Amulet of Ignation. Remembering the Kingdom callout that DM Armada brought up in his video, I headed back to the Volcor splash art to study it a little bit. In an instant, something popped out to me that I've never noticed before. In the right-hand corner, there is a sword, and another sword right next to it. Could this be a pair of Kodachi? Or even yet, Autumn's Edge? Ira's specialized weapon? Is this the reason for Mysteria being written on the map earlier? After doing a bit of research on the blade, and reading into the lore of Ira, this is what I got. Edge of Autumn was an elegant sword, cherry blossoms engraved along the length of the blade, displayed in a shrine under a large tree. Though warned not to go, Ira was drawn to the shrine to try and lay her hands on the blade, but was always stopped by her father, as she was only told to go there in case of emergencies. As years passed, around the age of 14, Ira and her two brothers, Zilin and Jing, were headed back from sparring when they noticed something was not right in the valley. A mass of inky shapes began to flood the streets as hordes of creatures with polished bone masks attacked villagers. The siblings drew their weapons and headed towards the creature, but their father jumped in front of them, telling them to head to the shrine instead. Without hesitation, Jing grabbed his siblings by the hand and ran as fast as he could, never looking back. As they approached the shrine, Ira saw the blade once more, finally grabbing it by its handle and holding it up by the light. Suddenly, the shrine began to shake, and a hidden path through the mountains was revealed. As the siblings headed towards the cave, the shrine shook once more. The roof was being broken away as the creature that fought their father oozed in, mask covered in blood. Zilin, the younger brother, told the others to run, but as he jumped towards the creature, the mask opened, revealing a maw of teeth, biting him in two. Jing grabbed Ira and made a run for it, but the creature began to chase them through the cave. As the tunnel was old, it began to crumble. Just before the creature was about to gobble them up, he was crushed by falling stones. Luckily, Jing and Ira got out in time, but as they stepped towards the light, their village could be seen in the distance, burning. After the smoke settled and the sun rose, Ira and her brother spent weeks searching for survivors, but in the end found none, making them the last living members of the Akaru bloodline. As time passed, Jing and Ira found other survivors of clans who experienced the same tragedy, which was labeled the Night of the Dark Tide. The survivors band together for a new place to settle, as in numbers they felt safer. As time passed, Ira's memories drove her down the path of vengeance, leading her to creating a group of rebels called the Crimson Haze. Ira decided to wield the Edge of Autumn in memory of her clan, and Jing could only watch as the weapon's dark essence began to wrap around her skin, seeping into her veins. Once morning, Ira woke up with a note from Jing, who left in the middle of the night. Ira crumbled the note and threw it down, stepping on it before walking away. To this day, she has disappeared. As Ira's lore is short, I checked into the other two characters from Mysteria, and while Benji's lore is non-existent, Katsu's is a story of a wandering master. In there, a part discusses the Crimson Haze rebels, which says, "This land no longer knows freedom. Our people are caged birds who have never flown. They do not know to miss it. They are hardly aware that they have wings at all. We would remind them." Going back to the weapons in the splash art, we see a bird made of fire. This could mean that she is reborn into something new, like a phoenix rising from the ashes. I can safely say that this could be a sign of life for her since she has disappeared. Her most prominent color in her art is her red scarf, which pops on the cool toned backgrounds. This kind of reminds me of fire, which we see a lot of in, obviously, Volcor. Let me know what you think. Could this lead to Ira coming back in the Volcor expansion? Will she be able to accept her past and return to Jing in the Mysteria expansion? Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you liked this breakdown. Also, if you find anything else in the Talisman Shadows, please let us know because we gave up. We tried everything. Apologies if my voice is going in and out during this recording. I'm getting over a sickness, and I didn't want to put out this video too far after the April 21st drop. Also, big shout out to Tiffany. You helped so much putting this all together and building the second part with me. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you around.